Leadership Partners. We provide leadership solutions for both profit and nonprofit organizations for coaching, teaching, and mentoring. What we wanted to do is to provide you with a free study on what PTSD is all about and how it can make a difference in not only your life but in the lives of others. We're putting together 8 different videos so you can see how this can make a difference in your life or maybe the lives of somebody that you know. So I encourage you to download a copy of this, share it with somebody on Facebook or YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe over here so that you don't miss any one of these videos. And you can also go to christianleadershippartners.org and get a full copy of this entire study. Use it in your organization or within your church, or even to get a group of veterans together or first responders together and see if it might make a difference in their lives as well as yours also. Research on the relationships between spirituality and psychological trauma outcomes have been advanced to the point that there's no doubt that interventions using spiritual cues can actually make a difference in our lives. They provide critically needed help to the trauma survivors who want spiritually integrated care. So once they go out and they pursue it, and once they find this spirituality, they can find this through the Word of God, and we can see different examples of that. We want to see how we can start treating both the symptoms of not only the chemical imbalances, but also the effects of guilt. So this was about our agenda. We did an introduction. I encourage you to take a look at that. We also went through and looked at chemical imbalances. The next study we did was identifying the guilt in our lives. And today what we want to do is we want to deal with the symptoms of PTSD and how we can get over those symptoms. See if we can make a difference in our lives. Tomorrow we're going to talk about how I can live a life free of PTSD with Jesus Christ. I also want you to see how you can help others with PTSD. Also, you can live as a victor. Now, I also have a workshop that we can do, and we'll make that available to you on our website at christianleadershippartners.org. Or if you want me to come and work with your organization, contact me, and we can go through each of these different things and make a difference in their lives also. So this is our memory verse. It's Psalms 18:39, and it says, "You have armed me with strength for the battle. You have subdued my enemies underneath my feet." The idea here is that we start filling ourselves with the Word of God. And the more that we do this, the thing that our typical reaction will normally be what is in our hearts and what's in our minds. If the Word of God is there, that's how we're going to react to these stresses and these disorders. I found this to work in my life tremendously, and the effects of PTSD are minimal to non-existent in my life, although I've been through several different firefights. I've been deployed to Baghdad for 18 months, and I've seen all the effects of PTSD on my soldiers, and I've seen what good spiritual care can do for people, and I've seen what bad care can do for others, and it doesn't seem to help. So what we want to do is we want to provide that for you, and that's what we want to do today. So let's take a look at what the symptoms of PTSD really are. They can be feeling upset about things that remind you of what happened, having nightmares, vivid memories, flashbacks of the events that make you feel like it's happening all over again, feelings of being emotionally cut off from others, feelings of numbness or losing interest in things that you used to care about, feeling constantly on guard, feeling irritated or having angry outbursts, having difficulty sleeping, having trouble concentrating, being jumpy or easily startled. Now, some of the consequences of PTSD can be just as damaging. Frequently, we avoid places that remind you of the things that had happened, constantly drinking or using drugs to numb our feelings, considering harming ourselves or others, starting to work all the time to occupy our mind, pulling away from other people and being isolated. Another thing that we've noticed is that there are people that'll go out and they'll try and recreate this feeling in their lives so that they can get that rush again. And this is very common with race car drivers. They have this PTSD in them because what's happening is that they have so much adrenaline in them that they can drive 250 miles an hour 3 inches off the bumper of the car in front of them. The problem is that when they get out on the highway, they're driving 250 miles 3 inches off the bumper of the car in front of them. So it causes issues in their own lives, and most race car drivers who are out there, even Formula One drivers, have got some type of problem with PTSD, and in fact, most have lost their licenses. Check it out. I think that you'll find that to be interesting. So current treatment, we can see that prolonged exposure therapy and cognitive processing therapy have been shown to be partially effective in treating PTSD for both civilians and veterans, although this isn't completely helpful, and this is done by psychiatrists and psychologists. And although I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and what we want to do is we want to start taking the opportunity to be able to start working with others and using the Word of God to help them use this treatment. Research on relationship between spirituality and psychological trauma outcomes have advanced to the point where there's no doubt that these spirituality interventions can make a huge difference in their lives. They provide the critically needed help that trauma survivors need who want this spiritually integrated care. So what we want to do is we want to get into the Word of God, and we want to see how treatment actually worked in the lives of these other people. You see, we have a historical record where we can go back and see what happened in a person's life and how they treated it. So let's take a look at King David. King David went through and he killed lots of people. He killed a giant. He faced the Syrian army. He faced the Philistine army. He faced all these different people. He killed thousands of people. He went out and went to war with all these different people and led his nation successfully in battle. You would think somebody like that would have post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Well, the thing is that you don't see any effects of that, any of the things that went through in David's mind. Why was that? Well, it was because David actively pursued God. He went through and he wrote the Psalms. He was constantly singing. He was constantly praising the Lord for what's happened in his life. He took his life off, or he took his focus off of himself, and he started focusing it on God. And the moment that he did that, it made all the difference in the world. Check out Psalms 34:4. It says, I went to the Lord for help, and he listened. He saved me from all that I fear. You know, David quelched all of his fear. He quelched all of his guilt, all of the things that he had gone through the Word of God, through praising the Lord and through writing the different Psalms that he wrote. It made all the difference in his life. Let's take a look at someone else. So Saul, the king before King David, had a lot of issues. He went out and he fought battles. He killed hundreds of people. He did all these different types of things, and yet he had some traumatic issues. And in fact, he tried to kill David several different times. We can look through 1st and 2nd Kings and 1 Samuel and see that Saul had some serious issues. So let's take a look at some of these things and what Saul tried to do to try and affect the way that he knew that he needed to do this, and yet he relied on someone else rather than doing this himself. So 1 Samuel 16:15 through 17 says, Some of Saul's servants said to him, A tormenting spirit from God is troubling you. Let us find a good musician to play the harp whenever the tormenting spirit troubles you. He will play soothing music, and you will soon be made well again. All right, Saul said, find someone who plays well and bring him here. So what happened was that Saul hired David himself to come and sing to him and to try and soothe his fears and everything else that was going on in his life. And yet, because he didn't do it himself, he wasn't reprogramming his neural pathways the way that he knew that he could. So I can't rely on just listening to praise and worship, and I can't rely on somebody else reading these things to me. I need to affect my neural pathways in a way that will make a difference in my own life. And the only way that I can do that is through my own praise and my own worship. I can only do that through reading the Word of God sincerely, trying to find what it is that God is speaking to me and laying all of my cares and all of my worries on Him. That affects not only the psychological trauma of guilt, but it also helps us with the chemical imbalances that are caused through the lack of serotonin in our lives, and this actually produces it when I'm praising the Lord and when I'm serving Him and finding different ways that I can use the Word of God to make a difference in my own life. So let's take a look at a couple of verses that can help us out. John 14:27 says, I'm leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart, and the peace I give you is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid. Jesus Christ is on his way up to heaven. He's getting ready to be crucified, and he's getting ready to leave his disciples. What does he leave them with? Does he leave them with money? Does he leave them with power or anything like that? No. He leaves them with peace. He knows that they're going to be going through difficulties and trials, and he gives them this peace. This same peace is available to you if you ask God for it. We can take a look at what David wrote as well. Psalms 127:2 says, For God gives rest to his loved ones. I can sleep at night the moment that I pray this prayer, believing that God is going to be the rest that I need. He's going to relieve me from all of these worries and all of these cares that are troubling me. So we also have to see that we can deal with this through the authority that God has given to us. This is Luke 10:19. It says, Look, I've given you authority over all the power of the enemy so you can walk among snakes and scorpions and crush them. Nothing will injure you. So what we want to do is we want to take this opportunity to go out and make a difference in the lives of others by being that leader that God created us to be.